Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Adult Child of Dysfunction. Today we have with us Janice Erlbaum. She is the author of Girlbomb, a halfway homeless memoir, and several other books she's written. So, welcome, Janice. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely my pleasure. I read a little bit about you, and what struck me right away was you said I was homeless as a teenager. And I was like, cha-ching, that's my girl. That's that's my girl. So we're just going to jump right in, have a conversation, kind of talk about all of your stuff and then your books and all the good things in between. So talk
Great.
about because I left my house at 16 ended or 17, about 16 and a half or so. Ended up going back, but what led you to leaving your house at 15 years old?
Well, I was living with my mom at the time, and she was on her fourth husband.
Mm.
Um, and this one was no good. I did not like this particular husband. I had favorites and least favorites. But he was unwell. He even as a 13-year-old, when I met him, 14-year-old, I could really tell this was somebody who uh, had a deep streak of anger, and um, he was a real mystery to himself,
Okay.
so he was very erratic. And sometimes this would be expressed violently. There was a lot of yelling, there was a lot of like throwing objects. And so I refer to it as domestic violence.
Yeah.
Um, though I personally wasn't hit. I decided to leave before that happened. I decided, I think I'm going to get out now because I don't like the way this is going. And she had actually separated from him briefly. And I told her, look, if you take him back this time, I'm going to leave. And she said, no, that I'm not taking him back. I totally understand. We had gone through the thing with the cops and changing the locks and the order of protection, and then she took him back. So I left that very night. As soon as she said he's coming back, I picked up my book bag and got on the subway and went to a shelter in Times Square, New York.
Oh, so you didn't have anywhere to go. You were like, I'm leaving regardless.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I made one stop on the way to the subway, which was to call my, at the time, best friend, Karina, and say, "Hey, I left home." And she was like, "Wow, that really sucks for you." So I was like, "Okay, not going to Karina's house."
Right.
But yeah, no, I didn't. My father, who is my mother's husband number two, was also a guy who yelled a lot, who threw things, who terrorized. But then when I got to the shelter, I felt very much like I had no right to be there because I was slapped, but I was never hit with a fist. You know, other the girls that I met living at Covenant House had experienced so much more abuse than I had, and I wondered sometimes, like, was I just weak? Should I have put up with it? But I do feel like it was the right decision for me, even though it was a snap decision, kind of. I must have known that something was going to happen soon because I did have this place, Covenant House, in mind that I had heard of, and I knew there was a hotline that I could call. So yeah, it really was from 1 hour to the next.
Well, and I can say
Coming
kudos
home.
to you because I talk about all the time how we just kind of stop listening to our intuition. And if your intuition told you as a 15-year-old, I got to get out, then
Yeah,
you got to get out.
yeah, yeah,
And the people that probably, I mean, how many of those people in that home that it got to escalated to the point where they were being beaten
yeah, yeah,
and abused in every way, shape, or
yeah,
form.
yeah,
I'm sure they probably had some inklings and some you got to get out before that, but sometimes
yes,
we
yeah,
wait until it's too late. And I don't oh, that's a tough one though, because I can understand the kind of like that comparison trap of,
yeah,
well, I
yeah.
didn't have it so bad. What am I doing? But I tell people, and I tell them with everything, trauma does not have to be a big T. I mean,
Mm,
just it doesn't have to be that physically being beaten down.
Right.
I remember
Right.
somebody asked me one time, uh, as a child, would I have rather been hit or ignored?
Mm,
And I said, I'd rather have been hit anytime
yeah.
because at least I knew I existed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
a big one.
yeah, there's all kinds of levels. So, how did you survive that? Like, how long did you stay there? What?
So I stayed at Covenant House, which is the largest provider of beds for homeless youth in the world, I think. As one organization, like I mean, state level government, federal government does not really have an allocation for homeless youth. Covenant House started as one guy letting street kids sleep on his floor and
Mm,
is now in most countries around the world. And anyway, they at the time they were allowing kids younger than 18 to stay. These days, if you're under 18, you're in foster care or you're home within 72 hours. But I was at Covenant House for 2 months. Then I was in a group home for about a year. And that was a more stable environment, but only by this much. So, yeah, I mean, first of all, I survived because I didn't spend a single night on the street. And what I've learned is that spending even one night on the street vastly increases your chances of ending up in systemic homelessness.
right.
Like, especially for kids. Like even one night on the street tends to lead to another night on the street.
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes. So like I feel extremely fortunate that I went right to a shelter. And because I was the only white girl there at the time, I got preferential treatment. I mean, this was the 1980s, and um, there was more racism sort of baked in to everyday life. I
Right.
definitely received uh, special treatment. Um, and I don't think I was fully aware of it at the time, but I'll tell you, my roommates were fully aware of it. Um, so that meant that I was a little bit protected, that I got sent to a very nice group home,
Mm,
that I was able to stay in the public high school where I was already enrolled. Um, and even though it was an overcrowded New York City public high school, there were some teachers there who cared.
yeah.
They
And that
cared.
makes all the difference.
It made a huge difference. Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
just in terms of like I was in the theater program because the teacher really worked to keep me in it. And just in terms of literally keeping me off the streets for a couple of hours after school,
Yeah.
uh, that's the difference. The difference was that particular day, I spent 3 extra hours in the auditorium that I wasn't getting into trouble.
Yep.
So I think that really the special treatment that I got and some really wonderful teachers helped me get through that.
Well, and I look back about it now and people always say to me, what would you have done differently?
Right,
And I'm like, the only thing I would have known to do differently is I would have told somebody what was going on in my world.
right, right.
Because that's really the only thing. So you going to a shelter, it's like, okay, that you are now it's known what's going on in the world. Like
Right.
there's no secrets. So you do
Yes.
have that opportunity for someone to reach out and to support you. Where I went and rented a room from the dad of one of the boys I went to high school with. So I lived on his third story and paid $80 a week while I was in high school for rent.
Wow.
But
That's so
nobody ever
resourceful.
questioned it. Nobody really ever even knew. So
Different times, right? I mean,
different, totally, yeah, totally different times. And I remember them calling my dad and saying, Tammy hasn't been in school for 5 days. And he had two questions. What are her grades? Which were great. And then, I don't know where she lives. If you find out, let me know. Those were literally my father's two questions.
Right.
And but because my grades were good, he's like, just leave her alone. Let her graduate. She's been through a lot. Like he knew, my dad was actually, both of my parents were drinkers. Both of them were
Mm.
alcoholics. I always say my mom was like, you're more volatile, abusive, neglectful, vicious, all kinds of mental health issues. My dad was just the one that wasn't emotionally available to help me.
Sounds like.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he told me when I was 13, he said, Tammy, we are doing irreparable damage to you, and I don't know how to help you.
Oh, wow.
And he sent me to one Alateen meeting. He did. And he was the alcoholic, but it was never discussed that he was an alcoholic. It was all about my mom. But it
Mhm.
was just kind of a crazy situation. But for the people out there listening, if you know somebody, if you know a child that is going through that, try to get them to just to reach out, to speak up, because I wish I had. People ask me now, like I was the bad kid at school. I was the lazy one. I was the one that didn't want to learn. And I think about it now and I'm like, I had 51 different teachers throughout my grades.
Wow.
No one ever asked me why I slept on the desk. Because at
Right.
that point in my life, at some point in those 13 years or 12 years, I might have said, because it's the only place I sleep with both eyes closed.
Right.
And
Right.
that might have been like, ooh, red flag, but I don't even
Yeah.
know then. Like I said, it's different times.
Yeah.
And, my mom was a child psychiatrist. So nobody would have ever questioned that. So I say, I was literally manipulated by the absolute best.
Yes. Yes. Well, boy, do we have a lot in common. I too was the bad girl at school, and yet, like you, my grades were very good.
Because you had to be. Probably
Yeah.
because I mean, I was afraid to bring home grades that weren't good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to, again, an underfunded New York City public school. So it was easy to coast. It
Yeah,
was, I liked to read books. So that made high school somewhat easier for me. But
right,
yeah, I admire what you did, and that was really what I had hoped for, was that I would, at 16 or 17, be able to have my own place, even if it was a room in somebody else's house. That's really what I wanted to do. But then I was in the system. By going to Covenant House, I had become a ward of the state
right.
briefly. And then the group home was in loco parentis, as they say, which is a phrase that I really like, loco parentis, meaning in place of the parents, but also meaning your parents are loco. Uh,
I
but
love that.
yeah, I know, it's just perfect. So I really did want to become much more independent, but I had sort of signed myself up now not to be that way. At the same time, I'm sure that being independent at 16 was not easy. I mean, at least I fought against the counselors and everybody at the group home, and I tried to break every rule and manipulate everybody. But you know what? They were there to do things like tell me to go to the friggin' doctor.
Right,
Go to the doctor.
right.
That was at least I had that, and whereas you were really navigating all on your own.
Yeah, and I feel like, what, like you said, one night on the streets, homeless, leads a teenager to so many different things, being trafficked, having babies, getting into drugs. Like there's all those other things. So I mean, I just kudos to you. I'll say it a million times. Kudos
Yeah,
to you.
to us. High
But
five.
talk about, you still had your run in with all those other things.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. And I kept running into them even after I was able to reconcile with my mom. She finally got rid of husband number four. She was on psych meds for a little while. She had sort of calmed down. And as soon as I thought, okay, I can trust this, I went home. Um, but she was kind of out of it, and I was suddenly had more freedom. So as soon as I was logistically out of trouble, I put myself immediately in harm's way.
Right.
Just immediately, like, let's go to the hard drugs now. Let's
Right.
let's get serious about self-destruction now. And that lasted until I was about 24, 25.
So about
Um,
7 or 8 years.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like real constant chaos, suicidal ideation, self-harm, addiction, like codependence, all the things. And it really was, um, again, I was home now. I had my own apartment by this point. I had a lock on my door that was mine, right?
Right.
Like at the end of the book, it ends with me moving into my own apartment and everything is great. Um, no, I had a home, but I had no center. I
Yeah.
had no sense of home.
I was going
So,
to say, so no sense of self, no sense of, I mean, you never were a kid, first of all. So you had to,
right.
like, you wish you probably could have gone back and started that. Like, okay, let me start over when I'm 9. Let me see if I can
Yeah.
do this right. But it
Yeah.
makes, I mean, and it's, hopefully by now, I see that you did all kinds of therapies. You did EMDR,
Yes.
you did
Yep.
talk therapy,
Yep. Yep.
hypnotism,
Acupuncture, hypnotherapy, which was life-changing for me. I mean, of course, long-term talk therapy was really the thing that did it. Can you pardon me? I'm sorry. My cat is yelling.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I have
No,
to
go
open
ahead.
things. Why? Why? What is so important? What's so important that you have to go?
So while she's out, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to. Oh no, I'm not. She's back, so I'm going to
Sorry.
cut that part out. So
Okay, thank
I was
you.
like, well, I might as well just talk while you're gone, but I'm not going to do that. I'll cut all
Sorry
that
about
out.
that.
No, but I mean, it stands to reason. Like I said, I don't. Now that you've done all these modalities and all these therapies, obviously you understand why you did what you did, and you turned to the drugs. And it's. I tell people it's not to be judged. It's not, it's what you can expect. I gave myself a word one day and it was so funny. I was on a podcast. You know how everything has an acronym, like there's EMDR
Yes,
and there's
yes, yes.
ACOD
Yep,
and there's all
yep.
this stuff, right? So I was like, I'm a proactive. And someone's like, what the hell is a proactive? I'm like, I'm a product of a completely dysfunctional upbringing. So I'm exactly what you are looking at is exactly what could be expected given my circumstances. Now, what I do with that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And I tell people, and I try to, this is my big message is it might have designed me. Like it might have made me how I'm look appearing, but it didn't define me. And only you can define, like only I can do that.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's going to change the way you show up in the world until
absolutely.
you become aware of every single change that it made. And then you deal with them one at a time. But
Yeah, I
so
was a
talk
real
about,
chaos agent. I was just, I
you
was,
what?
I was just a chaos agent, and I
Mhm.
look back and I see not only the self-harm, but the harm that I did to others. And, when I go speak at high schools or whatever, um, I'm asked, do you have any regrets? And the kids want me to say, no, I have no regrets because it made me who I am today. And it's like, yeah, I completely regret all of the damage that I did to myself and to other people. If I had another chance, I wouldn't do it.
Right. But at the same time, do I spend my life beating myself up about it? No,
Right,
because then you haven't healed.
right, right.
There's
Yeah,
forgiveness for the people that got you to the situation, and there's forgiveness for yourself in how you reacted to the situation, even though you didn't. To me, like I look at it, like people say to me, well, when I went through AA, let's say, and I went through the 12 steps, and you get to that forgiveness and making amends, and
yeah,
people were like, "Are well, who are you going to make amends to?" And I was like, "Well, first of all, I'm not making amends to the grocery store that I stole all the food out of when I couldn't feed myself. Like,
yeah,
no, I'm not calling them
yeah,
up and being like, okay, I stole food for 5 months because my mother wasn't feeding me. Like, there's certain things, but yeah, that forgiveness for yourself has got to come at some point."
yeah, yeah. And mid 50s, I'm still working on it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still really, really working on it. Still in talk therapy. I mean, and there's a lot of privilege that comes with that. I mean, if I sat down and calculated over the years how much money I have spent on talk therapy, there's a reason why I haven't done that. There's a reason why I haven't added it all up. But boy, oh boy, is life beautiful these days? I mean,
Right.
the epilogue of the book just could not be happier. Um, from entering real therapy at 25, meeting my now husband at 32, writing my first book at 34, these things, um, each of them was a new achievement, a new step in self-forgiveness. I mean, writing the book was very helpful because there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to acknowledge, that
Right.
I wanted to say, I did this and I'm not bragging. I'm not bragging,
No,
but I
but at
want
the
to
same
know.
time, your story is helping other people because your story is showing that you can do things and then you can still move on and have a better life. I don't know how many people I've interviewed for my podcast that spent years in prison for just making bad mistakes from reacting to a circumstance that they had no control over.
Right.
So that's like, yeah, you make mistakes, but you can still continue to have a good life after that. And
Yeah.
that's and I love that you did it with writing because I think that is one of the most writing, podcasting, speaking. First of all,
Yes.
it's a physical release. It's
Yes.
it's
Yes,
getting
it
it
is.
out of your body
Out of your
and
body. Yes,
out of your
exactly.
body. And I know like the EMDR and all the hypnotherapy and all this stuff, it's all amazing. I know my big transformations started coming when I started doing somatic exercises and became a
Mm.
neurofit trainer to work with the nervous system.
Hmm.
That was really when my big because I still go to a talk therapist, but it wasn't quite like I was like there's something missing.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
wasn't until someone told me one day, like, Tammy, if you're mad, freaking shake. Just shake your body. Animals do it. And that was like the first introduction I got to somatics and movement.
Yeah.
That to this day, when all my clients, when they say, Tammy, I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, and what did you start thinking about? And they would start telling me, and I would listen to the spiral of
Yeah. Yeah.
how, and then I'm like, well, then, and my comment is always get out of your mind and into your body.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as soon as you start doing that, like that was made the biggest change for me. What would you say was the biggest? I know you said the talk therapy was really
Yeah. Yeah.
incredible.
Um, it's interesting. I was not connected to myself somatically. It was all intellectual and emotional, and I carried a lot of emotion here, trauma here. Uh, but yeah, it was all very, very intellectual. Physically, one of the things that really helped, both acupuncture and Rolfing, I had very transformative experiences in an hour. In each case, while receiving the treatment, I had intense vasovagal reactions. Talk about shaking.
Yeah.
So much came out, and I had no idea that it was in there. So both of those were incredibly powerful. I mean, with acupuncture, I experienced an intense sense of grief for all of the physical suffering I had put myself through,
Right.
with drugs, with sex, in all kinds of intimate scenarios that I had let myself down, that I had not protected myself. And this tremendous amount of grief came up and was dispelled. Like, I had no idea. I had headaches. I thought I was going to go in. Maybe it would help. Maybe it wouldn't help. I had no idea that I was
Mm.
going to walk out of there with a much better understanding of what I'd been carrying. I mean, so Rolfing, almost the same thing.
Yeah.
It was intense,
Explain
intense.
Rolfing to the audience if they've never heard of it.
Rolfing is a form of massage. It's a very intense massage. Rather than treating the muscles, it treats the fasciae which attach the muscle to the bone. So it can feel very painful. And yet, what it's doing is releasing.
Mhm.
all of this very, very, very tight uh, parts of your body, and what comes out is lifted, is out, is gone. So it's not fun. It's not a massage,
Right.
but boy, oh boy, just incredible. And EMDR too.
Yeah.
I had 4 sessions and I felt better. Every time I left, I felt better. So I'm just so grateful that these things exist. And that I,
There's
yeah,
Uh, yeah, there's so many modalities now. For those of you listening that have never heard of EMDR, it seems like a very simple process, but obviously there's trained practitioners that show you through the process, but it's literally rapid eye movement desensitization. Blah, I can't
yeah,
ever say that.
we need either.
Desensitization. But anyway, you're literally looking back and forth. I've seen it done with light and and it's just it's switching up your brain. It's moving, moving things through. But it was incredible. It definitely was an incredible experience. And so, the people out there listening, you've now heard the Rolfing, you've heard the EMDR, you've heard the talk therapy, you've heard the hypnotism.
Yeah,
There is so many different modalities that explore. I
yeah,
used to say I was like a crazy woman throwing shit at the wall, like spaghetti at the wall, and waiting for
yeah,
something to stick, and it would fall off the wall, and I go, "Oop, I don't like that one."
right,
Um,
right.
but you have to. You
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
because what I mean, Janice and I could get on this podcast right here and tell you, "Oh, this is going to work." We don't know what's going to work for you. Everybody's
right.
different.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, I know. I honestly, I do. I wish that I could guarantee some of the results that I've
Yeah.
had. But things that have worked for other people didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Cognitive behavioral therapy didn't work for me. I fulfilled all of the diagnostic criteria for borderline personality disorder, which I didn't know at the time. I didn't know that there were other people suffering the same self-loathing and self-sabotaging syndrome that I was caught in. I never heard of the dialectical behavioral therapy that that's being used to treat BPD. So, yeah, modalities have been invented
Mm-hmm.
in the past 30, 40 years that
Yeah.
could have been helpful at the time.
It's
But
amazing. I should let you do. I have actually a one of the newest, well, not newest ones, newest to me is an AO biofrequency voice scan that analyzes like 171,000 different frequency imbalances in your body and then sends you like balancing harmonics to kind of rebalance them. So it's
wow.
very fun. It's the entrance way into my coaching because it's I can ask you 40 questions and know exactly what's going on in your body. But this is
Mhm.
kind of like a tangible, when you put it in and it runs a summary, it'll say like, "Oh, you're holding on to this and your adrenals are fatigued because of this." And it's not diagnostic, but it's an amazing tool. So it's kind of something I've added on that people are like, "Well, how does it know?" And then they'll take lab work and put it right up against this thing and they're like, "How? How?" Like it matches my Quest Diagnostics lab work to the T, but it's not
Yeah,
diagnostic, it's energetic.
yeah,
And
yeah,
at the end of the day, we're all energy, right? That's
yeah,
when you think of the acupuncture and the I love
yeah,
when people, when you look at the map of the body with all of the Chinese medicine, it's all connected and it's all blocks and flows and it's just opening that stuff up. So
yeah,
it's really interesting.
yeah. There are so many different things to try.
Yeah,
And look, sometimes I've had relief for a little while, and then that relief has gone away. Okay, I had some relief for a little while. How
right.
wonderful is that? Yeah,
Yep.
and then you can build on that.
Right. So tell me, I know you asked a question when in the little intake thing that we did for the podcast. What happened when you went back to that shelter? Because I'm curious about this now. As
Yeah.
a volunteer, going back as someone not in the shelter, what
Yeah.
experience did you have?
Well, as I was writing the book, I really wanted to get it right. And I was still living in New York. I was two subway stops away from this place that had changed my life. And so I decided to go back to volunteer. And what I found was that these were the daughters of the girls that I lived with, essentially,
Mm,
that absolutely nothing had changed. Same girls, same situations. Um, and the organization had gotten somewhat better about serving their needs. But yeah, I did not find that much had changed at all. The other thing that I found was that I had gone back not so that I could be of use to others, but I had gone back to heal myself, and I did so unconsciously.
hmm
So, I thought I was there doing a lot of good, and what I didn't understand was how caught up I was in my own past, my own present, my own nonsense. And I wound up getting very, very over involved with one of the residents because she reminded me of young me.
hmm
And it's like, Janice, that's not what you were there to do. You were there to do some occupational artwork. You know, you're not there to look for younger you and try to become a parental figure in her life. And as she's going from rehab to, hospital for various health issues, and then I'm trying to become some kind of I was asking, please let me be your medical rep. Like, let me help. You're constantly going through these health things. Let me be the one who helps you through this. Let me be the adult. Um, and through that process, I learned that she had Munchausen syndrome, and she had been faking all of the illnesses and all the circumstances that she had supposedly been through. So that was a really, really great lesson in knowing when you are doing something self-serving. Volunteering was meant to make me feel better. And so I was an irresponsible volunteer. I mean, look, I did occupational art therapy for many, 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 for a year and a half every week. Um, that part was good. I'm glad I didn't do more damage before learning I wasn't there for the right reasons. I wasn't fully healed. I was still writing the book.
And that, yes, and that is a very good point to make because a lot of people, I tell people, when they go to a coach or they go to a therapist, and I've had people say, I got the feeling that the therapist was getting more therapy by talking to me. I'm like, then find another therapist because many, many, many people get into, I mean, that's what I did. I got into coaching because I wanted to help people not have to go through what I went through.
Yes, yeah,
But
yeah,
if you can't tell your story without, I mean, there's a whole lot of when you're coaching or with a therapist, there's a lot of co-regulation going on.
yes,
And if you can't
yes,
co-regulate with the person you're talking to and you're leaving them feeling more anxious and distraught than before they came, you're not ready.
yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm 57 and I'm just now starting to coach where I started my healing journey 30 years ago. But 15 years ago, there
yeah,
was so much electrical charge behind the stories I was telling, which means that there would have been electrical charge behind the stories I was hearing,
yes, yeah,
and that will affect the person that you are trying to help.
totally, totally. Yeah.
So, again, kudos to you because some
Thanks.
people don't see that. Like, I will literally, and that's why it's so important. I just mentioned this on the last podcast. Go, if you have to go to, if whether it's a coach, a therapist, whatever it is your right. If you don't get that, you have to trust your instinct. And if you don't get that good, warm, lovable feeling that you're safe, that your body is safe and your mind is safe,
Yeah,
get out and get another one. There's a million of us.
yes, yeah, right.
There really is. There's a
Yeah,
lot, there's enough that you can say, I'm sorry, this isn't, thank you for your time. This
Right.
is not going to work for me. And there's
Right.
no shame in that.
Yeah.
Again, when we grow up in that kind of environment where these chronic people pleasers give everybody what they want. And I don't know how many people I hear say to me, "Oh, I was with this therapist for a year and I just felt bad leaving."
Right.
The hell,
Right.
you're there to heal you, not her
Right.
or him.
Also, these are professionals. They're not going to be personally hurt the way a friend would.
No.
They're not your parent. They're not going to be angry at you for doing something that they're very used to happening.
Right.
They
And not
so
only that, but not your circus, not your monkey. It's not your problem what they're thinking. That goes back to why we're in therapy to begin
right.
with.
But it's funny. I'm turning 57 next month, and I look at you and I see a happy, healthy person, and I try to present to the world as, the best version of myself. And I look at some of the women that I was in the group home with. You could not tell what we've been through. I look at you and I say, well, there's a successful citizen of the world who's, functional and is doing good for others. Like obviously, she must have come from a background that supported that. And I see my old cohort, and we're middle-aged ladies now. You can't tell.
Right.
You don't know what we were up to. You
Yep.
can't see the suffering
Yep.
because we were healed.
Because, yep, you did the work, did the
Yeah.
work.
Yes.
So, talk a little bit more about your book. And then I want you to tell people where they can find it, where they can work with you, if they want to reach out to you directly, and all that good stuff.
Great. Great. So Girlbomb now is 20 years old. And I'm sort of talking about it again because it never really went away. Over 20 years, I was still hearing from people who were discovering the book and finding that it had meaning for them. And I'm so happy about that. I'm just so happy that, on one hand, I'm not happy that it continues to be as relevant as it does. That again, a lot of the problems that were there in the 1980s are still baked in. I mean, gay kids and trans kids always made up at least a third, if not 40% of the kids who were homeless.
Yeah.
Same. It's the same. These kids get thrown out by their families. Nothing, the only thing that's changed is now there are a few other shelters, um, like the Ali Forney Center, that specifically serve these youth, whereas Covenant House, a faith-based organization, wasn't the best at understanding what gay kids needed, what trans kids needed. So that has changed, but not enough has changed. The book continues to be relevant. So in some ways, I'm glad about that, and in other ways, I wish it were like, wow, I can't believe that used to happen.
Yeah. But it just goes to show, and I say it all the time, like people are like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to get up on the biggest mountain and just feed love and light into these people and let them, like, doesn't your past is your past.
Yep.
So let's just embrace what happened, find what we can learn from it, and let's find a way, find the tools, find something to get to move forward and to
Yeah.
understand that, like, at the end of the day, we were all born these beautiful, divine, joyous creatures, and then
Yes.
life lifed on us. That's
Yeah.
the best way to
Yeah.
put it, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
it changed the way we look at the world, but the world is the good, the joy, the happy is still out there for the taking. You just have to be able to find the tools. So
Yes.
yeah, you're right. It's suffering is not the 80s, the 90s, the 70s,
Right.
the
Right.
60s. Like
Right.
it's universal, it's everywhere, and we just need more tools, and we need more people like you out there writing books.
I appreciate that. And you were saying where people can find me. If you are interested in writing your own memoir, whether it's book length or whether you want to write 3 pages, I am specifically always very supportive of people who want to write. And I do coaching, and I do have a sliding scale. So I can be found at girlbomb.com, GIRLBOMB.com. And I'm on Instagram, sort of. So you can find me at Instagram at janice.erlbaum.
And I will put all of those links in the show notes. So, people, if you're driving or you're not being able to pay attention to exactly the spelling and stuff, don't worry about that. Just go to the show notes. We'll have a little bit more about Janice in there and how to reach out to her and everything else. So, I mean, so many people are listening to you and they're like, wow, that's me. I've been there.
If so, I, I'm I'm holding you in my heart. I love you.
Oh, nice. So, if you had to leave the listeners with one last piece of advice or words of wisdom or something tangible they can take with them today, what would it be, Janice?
It would be keep trying, because without if you're not going to change anything, then nothing is going to change. And you can start small. You can do one of these one-time things like hypnotherapy or acupuncture or EMDR or Rolfing. And if you don't find results from one, try another. That sometimes people look at healing as like this giant Mount Everest that they're going to have to get up. And it makes it very, very hard to start climbing. But there are simple steps that you can take, and one of them might work for you.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah,
This is
no, it was
really,
super
really
fun.
lovely.
Thank you. And yeah, it's super fun. And I tell people it's the same thing. Like, wake up in the morning and just, what do I need right now? What do I feel that I need right now? Ask yourself that every morning. And then, what's one thing I can do to make myself feel just 1% better? And sometimes, if you ask yourself that, you don't have to climb Mount Everest. If
Yeah.
you could feel 1% better, imagine that. You would change the world. If
Yes.
everybody woke up in the morning and was like, okay, what do I need? What does Janice need? What does
Right.
Tammy need? Like, what do we need? And
Yeah.
what can we do? Because I'm sure we can think of something, but we don't. We wake up, we scroll on our phone, we open up, start doom scrolling. We immediately fill our minds with negativity the first thing we do in the morning.
Yeah.
And if I could give like a tip like today, like that would be it for me is wake up
Yes.
and every start the day positive.
Yes. Yes.
Start it
Absolutely. That's a
positive.
radical change too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And guys, go get her book. I want to read. I think I down is it it's on Audible too, isn't it?
No, there is no
No?
audiobook, I'm sad to say, but I may be addressing that soon.
Oh, you're going to address that because that's what you're going to do. Like, yes.
Okay,
Because I listen to everything on Audible, but maybe I think I might I don't know. That Girlbomb, it's so familiar, but I'm going to get it and put it to my list of 700 books I got to read, I promise you.
awesome. Thank you so much, Tammy. I will do the same. I'm very, very interested in your books.
Yeah, mine I got banned on Amazon, so mine's a dumb story. But yeah, my book is called Surviving Alcoholic Parents, and it's mostly meant for teenagers. It's a guide, but we can talk about that one later.
Okay,
But
great.
anyway, so yeah, so the name of the book is Girlbomb, a halfway homeless memoir, and several, and like I said, she's got several other books. Janice Erlbaum, check her out, go visit her, go reach out to her. A wealth of knowledge and so much wisdom. And thank you so much. Love
Thank
to
you,
you.
Tammy.
You're
Thanks.
welcome. And for everybody else out there listening, you heard it again. Here's another story of hope and healing. And just know that your past does not define you. And it doesn't matter how bad things got, they can always get better. They can always get better. And with a little self compassion, a little self love, and a little bit of work, you can get there too, my friends. So you all have a blessed week, and we will see you back.